Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Be a Friend Friday. It is still Healthy Vision Month, but unfortunately, we are closing out the month. It's been an amazing one so far, and I'm really excited that we're closing out the month with one of our Focus on Diabetes ambassadors, champions, Randall Barker. It's been quite the month filled with so many stories about eye health, diabetic retinopathy, diabetes management, resources, professional advice. But today we're here to talk to Randall about his personal journey with diabetes and diabetic retinopathy. Oh, I think we lost Randall, but no worries, he'll hop back in a second. So until Randall comes back in, we really do hope that you all are doing well. Please let us know in the comment section how everybody's holding up this month. It's been a really great month filled with so many different speakers about limb loss amputations and eye health, diabetic retinopathy. We've had great conversations with our champions this month. And in case you haven't been able to watch them live, feel free to check them out on our national pages. So I'm going to bring Randall back in. There he is. Hi, Randall.
Hello.
Hi. Okay. So thank you so much, Randall, for joining us today. We're super excited. Please, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So my name's Randall Barker, and I am a type 1 diabetic. I've been T1 for 30 years. Actually, last week just celebrated my 30-year diversary or anniversary. I live in Texas, and I also have a daughter who actually just graduated high school last night. She is also a type 1 diabetic, and she's been diabetic for 8 years.
Wow. First of all, congratulations are in order. Your daughter. And also 30 years, a 30-year diversity. I mean,
Yes.
what was that like? How did you feel when that time came around?
Oh man, I've seen it all in terms of like technology and changes around diabetes. When I was first diagnosed, I was diagnosed at age 10. Really, there was not a huge, I think, social media things were not around. So really, it was hard to find a little group of people that understood diabetes. I was diagnosed as a child, and I guess back then it was there wasn't a huge like pediatric support group or things like that, and so there were a lot of emotional roller coasters, mental health things that kind of went up and down the first few years of being diagnosed, but things did get better, and fortunately learned how to kind of conquer my condition. And yeah, I've kind of have almost used it to my advantage, and I think really that we may dive into that, but it really helped kind of when my daughter was diagnosed, understanding what she was going through and things like that.
I was gonna say, I mean, being diagnosed at 10 years old and then growing up and having a kid who is also diagnosed, I mean, you probably just understood her 100% what she was going through. Do you feel like that was the case?
Absolutely. I think, and we say this both, that this is, I believe, something that has brought us together stronger. We kind of understand each other's quirks, and also kind of get the funny side of diabetes, that we'll share memes of things together. But we really do. We bounce off of each other as far as the emotional aspect, the mental health issues of it. And, I understand what she's going through, and she understands what I'm going through. So it really has brought us closer.
That's amazing. And, it's always good to have something positive come out of something, that a lot of people perceive as negative. So that's great.
Yeah, I actually, so when
Uh-oh, Randall, it's chopping up. Um,
Oh,
can
did we
you,
back? Okay, sorry. I'm sorry if I have a bad internet connection.
oh, there,
Um,
I can hear you now. There you
am
go.
I back now? Okay. We're having weather issues here, and I think it's affecting the internet a little bit. So,
Oh, that makes sense.
um, but where was I at? As far as with her, when she was diagnosed, it really kind of pushed me into wanting to raise awareness and advocacy and things like that. And it's one of my taglines. I think when I talk with people is that diabetes, my greatest uh, letdown was being diagnosed as diabetic. That became one of my greatest strengths when my daughter was diagnosed because we were able to connect better. And so, yeah.
Wow. Well, I'd love to hear more about your connection with your daughter a little bit later, but tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about this roller coaster of a ride that you've been on with diabetes.
Well, being diagnosed at age 10, so this was in 1991, and also the area that I live in, there was not, back then, there were no pediatric endocrinologists. So there were a lot, that first year or so, actually the first couple of years of being diagnosed, I went into DKA a lot. Several instances of going into the diabetic ketone acidosis. And, you know, that's one of the things that they say that managing your blood sugars, keeping good control of lower A1C and stuff can, uh, if you keep the better control, it can help reduce complications, the long-term complications, which I think we're going to dive into more with it being the eye health month and talking about the diabetic retinopathy, which I have. Um, you know, and that's one of those, luckily, for the most part, I have remained relatively healthy, uh, with the exception of the diabetic retinopathy. But mentally wise, there were times that you feel like you're all alone, and especially being a young teen, moving into being a young teenager and stuff. There were issues of where uh oh, I'm here a diabetic, I don't know any other diabetics, and I'm kind of on this island by myself, and I really didn't have a thing to reach out. But it was actually attending a diabetic camp where we were all the same there at this camp. And that really helped kind of give you those stepping stones to a good outlook towards diabetes, how to manage it, and how to just really um, manage it both mentally and emotionally.
Yeah, camp is, I mean, we have our virtual camp, and everyone talks about how it really helps young people become more aware of their bodies and how to manage
Absolutely.
their symptoms. So that's really, really great to hear. And you know, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your how this journey kind of transitioned into becoming an eye health journey. Uh, I guess my first question is, did you know about diabetic retinopathy before you were diagnosed with it, or?
Yeah, it was one that where you have your yearly checks, or well, your annual checks, but you have your regular doctor visits as well. And it's something that they would always, check, but oh, make sure you have your annual eye exam. And of course, I'm wearing contacts now, so you can't see, but early on I had to wear eyeglasses. So that was one that actually the doctors would keep an eye on. We would do the dilated eye exams, and while it was never diagnosed as retinopathy, there were conditions with the eye that we would keep an eye on that I can recall from my early 20s. I had dot hemorrhages that we would
Uh-oh, Randall, I think we lost you again. Experiencing some technical difficulties.
I'm back. I'm up.
There we go. Okay,
Am I
there you
back? Okay. So with they would back to the annual exams, they would keep an eye on these hemorrhages by doing the dilated eye exams. And those actually kind of was just a wait and see. It wasn't until 3 years ago that we really had the major issues with the diabetic retinopathy. Um, and it wasn't until I had an episode where one of those hemorrhages actually ruptured that required me to go back to my ophthalmologist. And that was where we had discovered that there was a uh, one of the hemorrhages had ruptured. It had actually caused the retina to detach, and I had lost um, for that time period, the vision was reduced. I could just see shadows out of my eye then.
Wow.
Led to some bleeding in the eye that was causing the vision issues. And it was corrected, luckily, with eye surgery. And that kind of led to the path now of where we've done some preventative laser treatments. We've done some eye injections as well. And now instead of doing really the yearly exam, we actually do twice a year. And if necessary, we'll go to a quarterly exam.
Gotcha. Wow. I mean, that's a lot. It's a lot to go through. It must have been extremely scary. I do want to point out a comment that's quite lovely. Gabby in Ecuador said that her daughter was diagnosed on March 2021, and she's 7 years old, and so they're still learning. And she thanks you for sharing your experience. So,
Thank you for watching, Gabby.
um, so so what is it that I guess you did mention that you experienced some complications during the pandemic, and I mean, going through a pandemic alone is a lot. And so, how did you manage, your mental health? How did you manage everything during that time? How do you think you got through it after being on the other side?
That was very scary. In fact, so the first surgery I had was in 2018, pre-COVID, and then the latest one that I had that was it was actually on the right eye again. It was last April, right in the full blown uh, COVID mode, I guess you would say, and that was really scary because I almost immediately knew because I'd had this episode before when I had the loss of vision and it wasn't going away. When I woke up, I was like, you rub your eyes when you're waking up and okay, this eye's not focusing. What's going on? So I immediately called the doctor, and it's luckily one of those things of where I was able to get in within a couple days. But you're just sitting there at home worried, oh, is this the complication that they're not going to be able to correct my surgery? So you kind of make the little Facebook post or something like that. And luckily I had diabetic friends and just family as well, and for other friends that weren't diabetic that would reach out. So luckily we had that because we were during the pandemic, and so you weren't able to really get with people, so it was really good to have this online community that I could reach out to and talk with people about it and stuff. And that was a real good time as well for my daughter to kind of us have that closeness of understanding what we were going through. And then I had the appointment. They were able to determine what needed to be done, kind of setting a path. And at that time in Texas, everything was shut down as far as what they call
Oh, I think we lost him again. Sorry, everyone. There's some weather issues happening. Lots of crazy weather in Texas right now, so it might be affecting Randall's internet access. But just to kind of reset, Randall is our Focus on Diabetes champion, and he is sharing with us his experience with eye health and diabetic retinopathy. So, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comment section while Randall kind of comes back to us. And if you have any comments, if you can relate to this, I'll go ahead and shout out Gabby again in the comment section, saying how she has a daughter who has just recently been diagnosed, and she feels that this is helping her because sharing stories with one another is a great way for people living with diabetes to not feel so alone. A lot of people, especially during the pandemic, have been feeling very alone in this disease and in their personal lives, but especially living with diabetes. So this is a great way to have us all connect. And Randall is back. There he is. There we go.
I apologize. I apologize.
No worries.
So where was I? So I was discussing how at that particular time with the pandemic, medical treatments that were not considered life-threatening or necessary were being canceled. So I was going through worrying, how I'm going to have to wait who knows how long. Luckily, my doctor reassured me this dealing with your vision, this was going to be okay to have a very quick surgery. And in fact, the next next week, I was in surgery to have the vision issue corrected. So luckily, going back to the main question of how did I deal with it mentally during the pandemic as far as of a treatment, it was scary, but I leaned a lot on friends and the online diabetic community to help get me through that, give me that support that helped me get me through it.
Yeah, that's really important. And I remember you mentioning something that I have to hear about it. You mentioned that you created a group called the Sugar Stompers.
Yes. So back when, and I touched on this earlier, back when my daughter was first diagnosed, this was in 2013. Kind of on the same thing is understanding, I think growing up as a diabetic, you realize you need those peers, that support group. And while being online is great, sometimes it's nice to have those, face-to-face interactions. And so working with our local healthcare hospital, where we have a diabetic ed department, and they see a lot of the diabetics in the area. We threw around the idea of starting a group of a pediatric support group for some of the younger aged patients less than 18. And so we ultimately come up with the name the Sugar Stompers. And this allows the group was formed, and it allows some of the pediatric patients to get together to interact. And in fact, we're kind of having a kickoff to Summer Blast coming up now that things are starting to open up. It's actually next week. And we're hoping for a good turnout of the youth to show up, because this is, again, I think touches back on the mental aspect of having those face-to-face interactions with, a child or a friend just like yourself that has diabetes and understands the what goes into it. And so this group has been around since 2013, and we're hoping for time, years to come, that they'll be around as an outreach for some of the pediatric youth in our area.
That's amazing. That's incredible work and extremely inspiring. Very creative name. I love it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that it was really scary for you to go through such complications, especially during the pandemic. I'm curious to know how did your daughter, as a girl living with diabetes, how did she react to all of this happening to you, and how did you communicate to her, especially as a father, as a person living with diabetes? How did you communicate what was happening to her in a way where she felt not terrified, but also that it was serious enough for her to take responsibility of her own health?
Well, I think the first thing that I try to do when in doing something like that is I try to maybe take an opposite approach of what was told when I was a child. I try to explain the importance of the good diabetic control and stuff as far as how that helps reduce complications. But when I was raised as a early diabetic, it was taught if you don't do this, you're going to lose limbs. You're going to lose your eyesight. Things like that. And so I try to not come at her with what could happen as far as maybe the worst case scenario, but I also kind of use my own self as an example and say, I thought I was doing great control. I thought that these complications were not affecting me, and it can attack anybody, I guess would say. And so, it is real important to kind of try to keep things in control as best to your ability, but that there are slip ups along the way, and that's okay. That's what I really try to focus on her, knowing that it's a bridge that we'll cross when it comes, but at the same time it's not going to be maybe the worst case scenario of losing of a limb. Now, that's definitely a possibility, but you know, that could be with anybody, not just a diabetic, that they could, these worst case scenarios that could happen. So I try not to focus on the bad, but rather yet the good, that this, you can do this. This is not, yes, it's an invisible condition that many people may not see, but she is able to conquer it by just doing maybe a little bit more extra. And I know that she has the strength to do that because of these support systems that we've built in.
Well, you're an incredible father for that. That's amazing. She's very lucky.
Thank
Um,
you.
of course. So we do have a few minutes left, and I would love to ask to close us out, what is a piece of advice or something that you would give anybody that's watching today?
I think the biggest thing is that, which I applaud this Be a Friend Friday thing, is that, you're not alone if you're a person with diabetes, a diabetic of any kind. And, you know, I applaud the online community and these little chats that we have on Fridays, because that's a perfect opportunity for people to reach out when they may think they're on that island all by themselves and they have no one to talk to. And even though you may be doing it behind a screen, there's always someone out there. And the great thing about the online community is that, it may be 2 a.m. where you're at, but somebody is awake somewhere. And, you know, ultimately, if you're having maybe any issues of where with mental aspects of things, to definitely reach out and let those issues be known. And if it's something that needs to be tackled with professional help, absolutely, there's nothing wrong with that. um, but also I think, and on that is that, diabetes is, it's one of the serious conditions, but it's absolutely manageable. And anybody can do it. Now that it's becoming more, there's less of a, I believe, stigma associated with diabetes. I think that's allowing people to discuss it more, which I think is great. And I think it opens up a dialogue for people to reach out. And so, again, I applaud the DOC and the chats like these and everything like that. And I just want people to know that, there's support, there's friends out there, and that you can do anything you set your mind to and stuff. This doesn't have to be a setback, but a step forward.
Some really, really, really great words of encouragement right there. Thank you, Randall. A great way to go into the weekend. I mean, lots of great words of advice and wisdom, and your story was incredibly, incredibly inspiring. Thank you so much for taking the time today and sharing your story with us. I'm sure that whoever is awake and watching, like you said, will walk away from this feeling a sense of newfound empowerment and strength to carry on with their diabetes journey, and to feel like the responsibility that they have to take care of their eyes and their overall health is indeed manageable. So, Randall, I think you're frozen at the moment. I'll just wait for you to come back, but I want to take a moment to thank everybody for watching today on this final episode of Be a Friend Friday. We absolutely love having these episodes and having you guys just come on here and join in on the conversation, listen to these real human stories, personal stories. People are really bearing their hearts on the line here, and it's a really beautiful thing to have. Like Randall mentioned, the online community is such a great place to be, where you're able to learn from other people, get great advice, and feel like you just aren't alone. So you are not alone. If you want more information about all things eye health and healthy vision, please visit the link down below, healthyvision.diabetes.org. And with that, we are closing out Healthy Vision Month. But stay tuned as June approaches, because we've got a lot of exciting things coming your way. And I don't believe Randall is back yet. It says devices are not connected. But in the meantime, thank you all so much, and we will see you next time.